Good afternoon and welcome to this Wednesday, November 21st edition of Westman Newsline. I'm Colton Yarch alongside Jordan Olson and Dylan Donald. In today's news, we'll bring you the news just released moments ago about a ceasefire in the Middle East, as well as some squabbling during the new session of the legislature. And Jordan will be in with sports. Jordan, I hear that a record wasn't just broken last night in college hoop, it was shattered.
Shattered doesn't do it justice. This record was put into a cannon, shot into space, where it promptly imploded upon itself. Jack Taylor of Grinnell scored 138 of his team's 179 points by himself in a basketball game. More on that, plus some disappointing Toronto Raptors results later on in sports.
Thanks, Jordan. And Dylan will be in with weather. Dylan, we're on the upside of zero when it comes to the temperature. Should we be celebrating?
What have I told you about getting your hopes up, Colton? It may look encouraging, but you're forgetting about the wind chill. It's not horrible today, but unfortunately, it's going to get a whole lot worse. Currently in the Wheat City, it's 0 under a cloudy sky. The winds are out of the east at 26 kilometers an hour, gusting to 37. I'll check back later on the show with your full weather details.
Thanks, Dylan. As we told you, breaking news out of the Middle East. Egypt has announced a ceasefire agreement to end a week of fighting between Israel and Hamas militants in the Gaza Strip. The truce was scheduled to take effect just moments ago at 1 p.m. Brandon time. Foreign Minister Mohammed Kamel Amir made the announcement alongside visiting U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Rodham Clinton. In Jerusalem, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu confirmed the deal, saying he had agreed after consulting with President Barack Obama. The deal will end a week of fighting that has killed more than 140 Palestinians and 5 Israelis. Manitoba Premier Greg Selinger is denying opposition accusations that he has broken a promise to balance the budget by 2014. The Progressive Conservatives used the first question period of the new legislature session to accuse Selinger of misleading the public about the province's finances. The Tories pointed to the government's most recent budget, as well as NDP campaign literature from last year's election that said the deficit would be eliminated by the 2014-2015 fiscal year. The government admitted this week that the deficits may continue due to global economic uncertainty. Tory legislature member Kelvin Goertzen said the Premier cannot be trusted to keep his word. Selinger said many governments, including the federal government, are running more deficits due to the sluggish world economy. And the bickering didn't end there. Manitoba's new opposition leader says the NDP government is spending more time talking about shopping opportunities at IKEA than the province's poor. Brian Pallister of the Conservatives says more than 60,000 Manitobans have had to use food banks. He says the NDP should immediately raise the basic personal tax exemption to the Canadian average of more than $10,000. The NDP say that would rob the provincial treasury of $140 million, a move that would not help the province climb out of the deficit. From one situation where help is required to another where it's unnecessary. Winnipeg Police and the RCMP have issued a news release telling members of the public their help is not needed in the search for a missing Manitoba hunter. Norman Brad Lambert has not been seen since last Thursday, and friends and relatives have been looking for him. But Inspector Paul Wochuk says untrained people conducting searches outside of the coordinated effort can potentially become victims themselves if they're lost or injured or their vehicles are disabled. He says helping those well-intentioned people would draw resources away from the officer's primary goal of finding Lambert. Wochuk says trained researchers have been combing through rural areas in St. Anne and East Braintree, but so far there's been no sign of Lambert. Members of the Civil Air Search and Rescue Association are conducting a search by air. A social worker has told the Phoenix Sinclair Inquiry that the little girl's birth father had many troubles but had been cleared, and his case file closed 3 years before the 5-year-old was killed. Kathy Peterson Epps said Stephen Sinclair had community resources, help from his sisters and a family friend, and had completed the program CFS required to get his children back. She also said at one point Sinclair told her he was worried that the girl's mother, Samantha Keymatch, was trying to get custody of the children so she could get the tax credit money. Phoenix was killed in 2005 in June, not long after she was removed from a foster home and returned to Keymatch. She and her husband, Carl McKay, were convicted of first-degree murder in her death. The University of Winnipeg is creating the first position of its kind in Canada, a chair of cooperative enterprises. The chair, created by the Faculty of Business and Economics, aims to strengthen the co-op movement and develop socially responsible entrepreneurs. Funding of $625,000 was provided by the province, Federated Cooperatives Limited, the Cooperators Group, and Credit Union Central of Manitoba. The funding announcement is the first for the university's newly created Future Fund, with a goal of raising $15 million to support and enhance academic innovation on campus. And speaking of millions of dollars, let's take a look at where today's money markets are currently sitting.
Media production students of Assiniboine Community College. Local news, weather, and sports on Brandon's only TV newscast, Westman Newsline, airing at 1 p.m. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday on WCG-TV.
Federal officials have wrapped up their investigation into the deadly shooting at a Wisconsin Sikh temple. Authorities say Wade Michael Page acted alone when he shot and killed 6 people, injuring 4 others in August. But, as Kent Wainscott reports, temple members still have a lot of unanswered questions.
3 months after the shooting rampage here, members of the Sikh temple heard the FBI offer what seemed to some here like an all-too-simple explanation for such an incomprehensible act.
According to the FBI, it was only him, and he was a lone gunman, and they closed the book on that.
It's violence, he did it his own, so there was nobody involved, so there's no more arrest. So they're pretty much closing the case.
The agents told the Sikh community that Wade Michael Page had acted alone, but what they didn't or couldn't tell them was why, or why here. Questions that still tear at the heart of this temple community.
But still there's a lot of answer why he came here, why he chose this place, and target these innocent people, which is really sad. Yeah.
Amardi Kaleka's father, the temple's president, was killed in the shooting. Are there holes in the investigation? Are there unanswered questions at this point?
Absolutely. So, according to the congregation, the biggest hole in the investigation that they would like to see filled or answered is A, what was this guy's personal motivations, and then B, what took the investigation so long to close in terms of that day.
He fears that closing the book on this tragedy will close people's eyes to a threat that still exists, he says, in groups that spread hate and inflame violence.
When you close the book and say it's a lone gunman who just went crazy, what you're saying is we can't control it. That takes responsibility off of every one of us to keep our minds and eyes open on people like this.
Page was linked to a white supremacist group. Investigators say they found nothing to suggest the attack was facilitated by any group. The FBI said it generated 200 leads, conducted 300 interviews, and collected more than 200 pieces of evidence during its investigation. It appears the extra pounds that come with obesity may actually protect against depression. That's the finding of a new study published by the Journal of Molecular Psychiatry on Monday. Researchers in Canada found a gene that predisposes a person to obesity can also ward off depression. The common perception is that obese people are prone to depression, but researchers say the gene is associated with lower risk. And that's it for news, but stick around. Dylan's up next with Newsline Weather.
Good afternoon with Newsline Weather. I'm Dylan Donald. One more day of nice weather here in Brandon, but don't get used to it. Things will change by this evening, and we'll see temperatures dip back to the normals for this time of year, and even maybe see some flurries for the next few days. Currently in Brandon, it's 0 under a cloudy sky. Winds from the east, 26 kilometers an hour, gusting to 37 kilometers an hour. This evening, temperatures still sitting at above average temperatures for this time of year. However, there's a chance that we could see some freezing rain Temperatures sitting around +2 degrees and winds will be out of the east at 20 kilometers an hour. Overnight, the temperature will hit the normal low for late November. There's a 60% chance of scattered flurries throughout the night and temperatures hovering around -7, with the winds from the northwest at 15 kilometers an hour. Taking a look at our radar image now, there's more and more precipitous cells beginning to develop over southwestern Manitoba, hence that 60% chance of freezing rain or scattered flurries mixed through the evening and overnight. Turning to the satellite image now, heavy cloud cover is still making its way to our province from the west coast and also from the States. Taking a look at our 5-day forecast, temperatures getting back to what Manitoba is expecting for late November. Thursday, there's a 70% chance of flurries and a high of -6 and a low of -13. Winds from the northwest at 20 kilometers an hour. Friday, the sun will make an appearance, however. With a high of -14, it won't be melting any snow. Low for Friday, -17, and winds from the north at 20 kilometers an hour. Saturday, cloudy sky and a high of 0 and a low of -19. There's a 60% chance of flurries and winds from the southeast at 10 kilometers an hour. Sunday, sunny skies and a high of -13, a low of -16, and winds will be from the northwest at 20 kilometers an hour. Looking to the beginning of next week, Monday, mix of sun and cloud with a 40% chance of flurries and a high of -12 and a low of -16. Taking a look around the region for this hour, all temperatures are on the plus side. Winnipeg and Portage La Prairie are sitting at 0, while Dauphin is sitting at -1. Neepawa, Carberry, Killarney, and Minnedosa all sitting in at 0, while Verdun checks in at +3 degrees. Seasonal norms for this time of year is a high of -3 and a low of -13. Record temperatures for this date were a high of 9.4 back in 2009, and let's be thankful it isn't 1978, back when the record low was set at -31 degrees. Once again in Brandon, it's 0 under a cloudy sky and winds are 26 kilometers an hour, gusting to 37 kilometers an hour from the east. That's it for weather, but stay tuned and Jordan's up next with Newsline Sports.
Good afternoon with Newsline Sports. I'm Jordan Olson. It's only Division III basketball, but it's still an amazing record. Jack Taylor finished with 138 points to shatter the NCAA scoring record in Grinnell's 179-104 victory over Faith Baptist Bible in Grinnell, Iowa. Taylor made 27 of his 71 three-point attempts, was 52 and 108 from the field, and added 7 free throws on 10 attempts. New York Knicks guard Carmelo Anthony was amazed by the feat and said it's like a video game. NHL labor talks continue this morning in New York. The league asked the union to table an offer that includes detailed plans about splitting revenues and rules governing player contracts. While the sides are talking, the NHL is expected to cancel more games, and according to the sources, wipe out the first 2 weeks of December off the schedule. After a lunch break, the two sides reconvened just 10 minutes ago. John Hufnagel bucked traditional at the Grey Cup Coaches News Conference Wednesday as the Calgary Stampeders head coach and GM and the Toronto Argonauts head coach Scott Milanovich posed with the Grey Cup. Hufnagel reached up and grabbed the trophy. That caused a stir among reporters in attendance because coaches, citing pre-game superstition, usually refrain from touching the hallowed trophy until the team actually wins it on the field. But Hufnagel had a simple reason for touching the Grey Cup. He has won it before in 2008 as the Stampeders head coach, and his name is on the trophy. Milanovich didn't touch it, saying the team was sticking to the time-honored tradition of not touching the Grey Cup until they win it. Milanovich has 2 Grey Cup rings for championships. He's won as assistant coach with the Montreal Alouettes in 2009 and 2010. And Colton, that's it for sports.
Thanks, Jordan. And that's all the time we have for you today. Be sure to join us again tomorrow for Brandon's only TV newscast, Westman Newsline.